My name is Jenny, and I'm a wife and mom raising 2 kids. But I used to live a more glamorous life as a TV reporter. I was on the nightly news interviewing pop stars and politicians. So when I said goodbye to TV and hello to motherhood, I suddenly discovered what we moms are up against. We live in a world that tells us to be rich and famous, thin and successful. You know, almost nobody says, "Oh, hey, you're a mom? That's fabulous." But you are fabulous, and I'm here to tell you why.
It's the Channelmom Show, celebrating you with Jenny Dean Schmidt.
You are listening to the Channelmom Show, where we are celebrating you on Mile High Sports Radio, AM 1510, FM 93.7. I am your host, Jenny Dean Schmidt. You can also watch us all during the week on channelmom.com. We now have somebody that it is my honor and privilege to interview this morning. Her resume makes you want to crawl under a rock and wonder what you have been doing with your life. This former TV anchor has won too many awards to mention, including some of the most prestigious awards in the broadcast industry, dozens of Emmys, the Edward R. Murrow Award, and a National Gracie Allen Award. She has traveled around the world, helped raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for all kinds of charities, not to mention for a small African nation. She's an accomplished pianist, and she's written a book. And I haven't even listed half of her accomplishments, by the way, but she has an even better story than all of her awards and accomplishments. She became a mom in a unique way that changed her life. Stephanie Riggs is here to tell you her story. And we should mention that Stephanie also hosts her own radio show called Divine Calling. We're not competitive around here, on a different radio station, but I will let Stephanie tell you about that. Welcome, girlfriend.
Thank you so much for letting me be here. And, it's funny that I put it right up here.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was just the green dot was just supposed to be facing me. I didn't know it was supposed to be right up here.
She's got her own radio show.
It's not that I don't do this every day. That's on 94.7 at 2 o'clock every day, weekdays. It's called Divine Calling with Stephanie Riggs, because I don't think you can come into your divine calling without forgiveness. So that's really the drum that I beat. But I want to talk a little bit about meeting you at CBS4, because when I met you, all I cared about was what so many moms think they're missing, and that is the career.
Sure. I was right there with you.
And Otis, okay, stop. The cutest thing I've ever seen in my life. Otis, her little baby boy. He's not a baby boy anymore, but this baby was the biggest baby I ever saw in my whole life.
He was huge.
Just was like
28 pounds at a year.
But when I would see that, I would say, I don't have time for that. I cared about one thing, and that was about winning Emmys and having this career. And it's interesting how, be careful what you wish for, because God just gave it all to me. And then some. I wanted to win an Emmy, and folks, I have bookcases of them. And yesterday, I have a friend, she's a mom, and she wants a cleaning business. That's what she's doing. And so she said, I want to help you, and will you be one of my clients? And I said, sure.
Yeah.
So yesterday, but by the way, I cleaned my house before she arrived. So
yeah, I would do the same thing. I would do the same thing.
But she comes to me and she said, I have something to tell you, and it's just terrible, and I feel awful, and I've got a knot in my stomach. And I said, what is it? Tell me, what is it? So she takes me downstairs to the bookcase.
Okay, we do have a video camera here, so she's going to put this on video. So if you want to see it, go to channelmom.com.
She said, I just feel terrible about this. It broke, and this is just tragic. And I said, oh, what's tragic is how much I cared about these things. What's tragic is that, you actually have a knot in your stomach about it. I have a knot in my stomach about how much I put these before.
Well, tell people what it is.
Oh, this is an Emmy Award, and it's a big deal in television news. Actually, you watch them on television and stuff like that.
Yeah. But the wing fell off.
Yes. Okay, yes. I'm now going back to reverting to television because you have this on camera. All right, so the wing fell off, and guess what? This will be going into the trash. But what I noticed was, number one, how much I love my friend Teresa. And I gave her a big hug and a kiss, and she's like, are you kidding? This isn't devastating to you? And I said, no, you have no idea how far I've come.
Yeah.
Because in the course of about a year, everything that defined me was cut out of my life. And I mean everything. It affected my career, my family life, my self-esteem. I mean, people say, oh, you really have it all. Listen, everything that you thought I had was taken away.
Sure.
And what I'm saying to people is that it was the very best thing that could have ever happened to me.
Absolutely.
But during the time, I really thought maybe God was mad at me, or I had really missed the mark, and I couldn't figure out. I felt like Job. There was no peace. There was just no quietness. And if I had an Oprah Winfrey magazine next to my bed, or I had a Bible, and I've always had one, I would have always looked at the O list. I'm just telling you the truth.
Yeah.
I want you to know, I brought this along too, since this is a show and tell today.
Yes.
This.
Can you move the water? Can you move the
Oh,
water?
yes.
out of the
I will.
way?
Okay, so this is, you can see it. I have to tell you, when I went through
Sure.
what was just absolutely what felt like a crucifixion, I turned to this book.
Yeah.
And it spoke to me for the first time in my life. And so that's really, I think, such an important thing to talk to people about, that it's, when you have a religion and you don't have a relationship, you really do have rebellion. And you think, well, I have everything I want. I have bookcases of Emmys. I have a beautiful career. I have everything I wanted, but there was always something missing. And I think when you were talking about the moms who took their children's lives, when you try to fill that hole with anything other than, I feel, the Holy Spirit, it just gets bigger and bigger. That's what you call addiction, and you fall into it, and then all sorts of bad things happen. So what happened to me was, I actually sat there with everything that I ever wanted. God gave it all to me and then some. And I said, God, something is missing, and I don't know what it is. And I remember I was in the remote part of Eastern Africa. I mean, the poorest of the poorest of the poor. Believe me, there are classes of poor in this world. And these mamas and orphans had found out that I was single and unmarried, and they thought that was devastating. Well, I didn't. I mean, I thought I was doing just fine, so they started to pray for me. And when I came back, it was about 2 weeks later, everything in my life had changed, because I have vowed to never really talk about the story publicly. My little boy can tell his story. It's his story to tell. But I will say that this child showed up in my life. He was 3 years old, and I started spending time with him. Just thought I would help out. And then,
By the way, I want to say this. You went to the desert before this.
Absolutely. I went to the pit of hell. I wasn't on my knees. I was on my face.
But that's metaphorical, that you went to the desert because you went to Africa.
I did. And I have to tell you that this little boy looked up at me one day and he said, so Steph, what's it going to be? Are you going to be my mommy? And I thought to myself, oh, this poor kid. There's so many better candidates out there than me. I mean, really, I have no idea. I can boil water, folks. That's it. And I mean, as far as, I don't even remember spending much time at my home. I mean, that's how much I was into this career.
Yeah.
And I said, well, let me just ask you, because no one's ever asked me to be their mom before. What is it that you think makes a good mommy?
Oh. Because he had lost his mom.
And yes, his mother had passed away, and he said, what are you saying? I said, well, I don't know what it takes to be a good mom, and I don't know if I'm the right person, but what you tell me what it is that you need from a mom. Because I wanted to make sure I could at least come up with some of his
Sure, I can't wait to hear what he has to say. Did he say something?
He said the most profound thing. He said, all you need to be a good mom is love.
Oh,
that's it.
Precious boy.
And you have that. So what's it going to be, Steph? What's it going to be? Well, he's going to be 12.
And he went from calling you Steph to mom.
Yes, he did. But we had to go back to his house. And he wanted to go back. It had been sold. And this nice man who bought it, he's a single dad, he let my son take me on a tour. And I think he went back there to make sure she wasn't there.
His mommy?
Yeah.
Before he took a new mommy?
Yes, he was 3. So we were down in the basement, and he said, she's not coming back, is she, Steph? And I said,
oh, I'm going to cry.
No, sweetie, I wish she was. I wish she was here. I wish this was all different for you. And he said, well, actually, I don't. Because you would have fixed up your little house and made it into that beautiful house for me. And you would have had to live in that house all by yourself. So I think we should just go home, Mommy. And that was it. He never called me Steph again. But he was so loyal to her, and he was so faithful to her. So I have a picture of her holding him in his bedroom. And on Mother's Day, we always pray for her. And we always, like, if they pass out a flower, you know, if you go to brunch, they'll often pass out flowers at the table. And I'll say, we need another one.
Oh, okay.
And her name is Tracy. And without this woman, I wouldn't have had the greatest joy in my life. And let me tell you something. That's not the only broken Emmy there. They've been they've been members of the war games, and
Sure.
they've snapped and broken, they've disintegrated, and God showed me exactly
what they meant,
what it was all about. And all those accolades, that was really, I think, me trying to fill a hole.
Sure.
That was absolutely not ever going to be filled by anything other than the Holy Spirit. And I tell people all the time, you know, they say, well, Stephanie, you know, I have this faith and this faith. And I say, look, I know, and I did meditation, and I tried to make right choices, and I read self-help books, but I have to say that you have nothing to lose by saying, okay, so there's this whole, you know, business of you, Jesus. Well, will you help me? And you know what? That's as simple as that. It doesn't even have to be any more profound than that. I've really missed the mark, And I would like you to come into my life and guide me. And you know what? It absolutely changed my life. And sitting in the movie, when that little hand just reaches over and grabs mine, I sometimes look up and I think, I can never thank you enough.
Sure.
For everyone thinks I saved this little boy and I became his mom and how magnanimous it was for me. No, no, no. He saved me.
It is funny how God
People
does
don't
that.
understand that when I think these children pick their parents. I think it's this divine calling that we don't even know what's going on, and I think we just need to trust the process. But really, in order to get everything that God has for you, I do think you have to get out of his way.
Absolutely. And so I want to say this, and I want to move on to another quick question.
Yes.
What you said, I totally agree with. I had to be stripped as well from my career. And I give a speech about it, about how the whole world tells you you're supposed to be this thing. You're supposed to have a career or look like Jennifer Aniston. You're supposed to have a salary like Bill Gates. You're supposed to live in this kind of house and drive that kind of car. And in the end, none of that stuff matters. And what I say is I was in the spotlight, but that was an artificial light compared to what God had for me. His was a true light, and it was an artificial light versus a true light. The artificial light did not love me back. It just didn't. And I explained that God was the only thing that could love me back. And I had to learn that the hard way. Like you, I had to be stripped. I had to go through this horrible desert place. And it was okay. I'm really grateful for it now. But look at the richness that God gave you on the other side with children. And he did the same thing for me with a child. And I love that. But I want people to understand, what is it, and we got about 4 minutes, about adoption where you got to choose to love this child. It just sort of, I feel like, happened chemically for me because he was natural born. But you got to choose. What does that mean to you?
You know, I don't feel like I really did get to choose. He showed up on my front doorstep. I fell in love with him.
But how did you choose to love him? You chose to love him. You just fell in love with him?
I just fell in love with him. It was absolutely, and believe me, I'm telling you, I never really had this big desire to be married and have kids. I didn't. But when he walked in my front door, and he just took my heart. He grabbed it and he never let go of it. And to this day, I have never ever loved anything more than I love this child. I didn't even know I had the capacity to love anything as much as I love this little boy. And people will say to me, well, don't you want your own? And I feel like he is my own. I mean, I feel like, first of all, I think all of these children belong to God and they're on loan to us. And our responsibility is to make sure they come into their divine callings and are returned to him. And I think really, truly, God gives and God takes away. And so I just feel blessed that all the children that I had profiled throughout all those news stories I've done, like the one here, the broken Emmy, is Lexi and Sid.
Yes, the
conjoined twins, successfully separated about my son's age. I'm their godmother. And you would never know that they were ever surgically separated, except Lexi has a little L on her rear end, and Sydney, or vice versa. The L is on Sydney and the S is on Lexi, and it's a constant reminder that they will always be connected for life. But the mother had a choice. This is going to be a very high-risk pregnancy, and she said, I'm going to trust God with it. And if you watched that on 48 Hours, you saw that it was really touch and go. But in the end, But in the end, you would never know. But I just feel like all that love that I had shared with listeners and viewers all came back to me in the form of this little boy.
Did. You have a minute. Tell me about how forgiveness plays into all this, because you have 1 minute.
Well, I think God moves in direct proportion to our forgiveness. So the bigger the offense, the bigger the blessing. And I do think a lot of us are walking around thinking that we are really walking in the fullness that God has for us. But if you hold anything against anyone else, right up there with asking for our daily bread, he says, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. I have so much I need forgiveness for, so I extend it. And I don't think you can ever come into your divine calling or be truly free without letting go of an offense. And like I said, the bigger the offense, the bigger the blessing.
Yeah, and that's what your show's all about. Divine Calling, 2 p.m.
You have to come on my show now.
Okay,
and we don't videotape, so you don't have to put any lipstick on. You can just come in your jammies if you want.
I know, I have to. So 94.7, 2 p.m. weekdays.
Yes, 94.7.
It's a wonderful show. I've listened to it. It's wonderful. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thanks, you guys, for having me.
I
love you too.
Did you know that research now suggests that the average child predator, I'm just really switching gears here, in America can make more than $200,000 a year off of one girl? The astounding world of child trafficking. You may think it does not affect you, but it does, and our next guest is going to tell you how. Coming up.